Hello. Um, as you can see, I think we've decided to put triggers on things, and so I hope it's obvious really that I will have to draw on my Christian understanding, Catholic understanding in what I'm talking about now, because I simply don't know any other way to do it. So if you really can't cope with that, listening to it in any way, but then obviously it's not for you. But this is particularly about the anguish that we can have at times about our loved ones who have died, because it's been a very big feature in my life for some reason. And yesterday I was very grateful to be driven by a friend to visit a family and friend, and also to call on mum and dad's grave, and I was struck yet again with this urge to sort of share something about how I've been helped through feeling absolutely dreadful about it, with anybody who happens upon it really on the internet, who maybe feels the same way. Not that I'm saying you have to do what I say or anyway, of course I'm not, but as I've said in other videos, we are to be free to choose our own path to wholeness and peace and understanding. And I do think the spiritual side of us needs to be looked at, because we are part, that is part of our nature. And so what I want to say is that when my dad died, I was, it was sudden, it was a brain hemorrhage, and I was struck very deeply by an awful anguish about where was he, is he okay, he sort of, I won't go into mum and dad's story, but they didn't tend to go to church much because it was a mixed marriage, faith-wise, and in those days you didn't, But I was, the awful. I don't know whether you know it, but if you do, you know what I'm talking about. It's indescribable, isn't it? That terrible, deep anguish about if they're all right, they're all right with God if they're saved, if you've got faith. And even when you know that God's merciful and full of love, and they weren't, bad people in any way or anything like that, you just don't know how the heart was, do you? Whether it was facing God and open towards him, or whether it had closed towards him, because that's our final minute, isn't it? We decide, we're free to decide, do we want him or do we not want him? It's up to us, you see. It's not him rejecting us or sending us anywhere, it's us, our decision. And unfortunately we can harden ourselves, can't we? But even that's not a problem, because at the very last second of our life, I now understand that things can change wonderfully. And it's because of my understanding I have now, and the great consolation it's given me, the surety I've got about it really, that I feel I must share it with anybody who feels like I used to do. I'm doing these video shares, on various things, I suppose, because I live on my own, and I would tell somebody here otherwise, I do spout a bit really, as friends would say, but also because I don't know why, I just really want to share. So it's all I can do now, because I'm stuck inside a lot, and it's all I feel I can do that may help just somebody or other. And I do want to just add the quick rider that I've tried to say before, but it's got cut off. You could say, who on earth is this spouting away? Who does she think she is? And I totally agree with you. I am nobody in that sense, except I'm an ordinary sort of sinful person, if you like, who's been through all sorts of ups and downs in her life, come to some very peaceful understanding about the faith that I embrace and live and die by, totally respectful of other people's. But because I pray, I suppose, I believe anybody who prays can, God can reach others through all of us, and so that's why I'm doing it. Anyway, I must get on with it now. When I was in terrible anguish about Dad, I remember getting up early one morning, going to somewhere where there was an early mass. It was an order, a religious order, and after mass I went to the there was a very elderly priest there, and I said to him, it must be about 7 o'clock in the morning, I said, Father, honestly, I said, I'm absolutely in anguish about my dad, because I just don't know if he's okay, and I keep getting these thoughts that he's not okay, he was hardened and stuff at the end, and nobody knew it, you know. And the devil makes the most of all these thoughts, these despairing thoughts, to make us despair. I know now. I've spoken about that in another one as well. And he said to me, now listen, God is out of time. He's timeless. He's in the present, the ever-present moment. There is no time for God. Because everything, he's ever-present. When your dad was dying, God could see then the prayers that you're saying for him now and will ever say for him. And if there was any question of him being hardened against God, God seeing all those prayers, not anguish prayers, just daily ordinary desires for him as a prayer, and he would apply without any doubt at all that grace to your dad, even at the last minute, that he could turn in a glance of openness to him. You know, that the little glance you can give towards God that's full of sort of like a trust, even though we can sense we're in an absolute mess. It's a trust, a handing over, a trust in his mercy, with a sorrow mixed in with it as well, but not, you know, it's very hard to say. I've had it myself, and it brings great grace if you just go along with it, even briefly. And he said to me, so he saw all those prayers. So all those prayers will have been applied to him. All that grace. And he said, you have no need to worry at all. Keep on with them every day like you do, but in peaceful trust. And, you know, knowing how much more God wants each person's salvation, even than you do about your loved ones. You know, he wants them eternally happy and home with him. So. And anyway, since then I've heard and come across so many other things. I know I must speak about this because I was at a retreat once, and this lady was a terrible anguish, one that I recognised, but even worse than mine, because her son, a young adult, had thrown himself over a bridge. And she was a prayerful woman, and she prayed for him and everything, you know, all her life and that, but of course it wrecked her life because she didn't know how he was, what state of mind he was in when he went. And you know, we have funny understandings about God and suicide, don't we? I mean, you know, it's not clear cut like that at all, isn't it? He understands where we are, and if we're ill, and when we make decisions and all that, you know. So anyway, so the point is, that Father said to her, he said, now look, a bit like the Father that spoke to me, he said, God, who is all merciful, and even at the last minute on the cross, Jesus, who we know, believe is God made man, said to the thief on the cross, this day you will be with me in paradise, because he just turned to it, just turned in openness, sorrow and trust, in one little glance. And he said, you do not know what happened between the bridge and the water, and a great deal can happen in the blink of a soul, and surely God will have applied all your prayers and all your future prayers to the salvation of your beloved son. So don't be worried. You know, Padre Pio said, didn't he? He said about not to worry. Well, so many people have said that. So anyway, so I just want to say that I now pray very, very much, a lot, all the time really. I think it's my main prayer really that I say for anybody who's dying at the moment, who is in despair and maybe hardened, you know, that they will have that grace of a glance of salvation. No matter how long we believe there is a time of purgatory when you're sort of like made more fit for heaven, if you like, because it's like being go in there in our old clothes, isn't it? We need to get dressed up. We believe purgatory is a bit like that, you know, so we can respond to the wonderful way God is, you know, His complete goodness and everything. Because as we are, you know, it's hard. We can't do it really properly, can we? So however long it takes in purgatory, that doesn't matter. I'm not bothered at all about going to purgatory. I think it's wonderful. In fact, I want to, you know. But that they will be forever saved, and that's what we're bothered about. That's what we want, you know. That's what God wants. That's why I went to all those lengths, isn't it? So, as I say, that's my understanding now. It's a Catholic understanding, and I know there are other ones that will bring great consolation to people. And if you want to know more about the faith, you know, I've said before, I'm loath to sort of say one site over another because there's some very good sites. But I would always pick something fairly central, not too left or right, you know. Sort of, you know, truth is as it is, you know, we can sort of like send it whichever way we're inclined, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. And I watch EWTN, and I think that's very helpful. But there are all sorts of other things, you know, and writers and things. Again, saintly people have been rubber stamped by God, haven't we? Haven't they? We think of like Saint Therese of Lisieux, that little saint. She's a doctor of the church. I think that's wonderful. And in our own day, we can think of Saint Mother Teresa and Saint John Paul II. Well, they're all people, if you like, that have been rubber stamped, haven't they? So what they've said we can really listen to without any worries at all. But so many of them, and I don't want to exclude anybody. So anyway, that's just for if anybody wants to follow up. But you know, with all my heart, I feel for people that are grieving, especially if they can't find peace about their loved ones. It's the most terrible anguish to have. I've still got it to some extent, even with all this trust, because it's part of our human nature, our human love. It's part of this veil of tears. You know, we're not quite there yet, are we? But I've got a huge amount of peace about it, and I can manage it okay. I almost don't want to let go of it because it's part of my love for that person. I don't want to let go of it entirely. Don't know whether that's right or not. Like, so I heard somebody say the other day about that tragedy in France. He doesn't quite want to let go of all his grief because it's part of his love for his wife, you know. But I mean, it's got to become copable with and positive and trust, you know, trusting, and you need to be able to get on with your life because your loved one wants that more than anything, as God does. God bless.